Welcome to the base. This is a basic overview of the park. It's really beautiful, but it's also quite challenging to traverse. This is not for your average basic player, but I'm going to be showing you a couple of the more notable areas of this place. Gonna start things off on a sniper's paradise. Now, a lot of folks who do projectile-based stuff like Nerf, airsoft, or paintball that like to consider them snipers would never dream of hitting somebody at the other end of this gigantic open hill. But with laser tag, you can do that. This Phoenix LTX laser tag blaster has an effective range of about 600 feet, and I'm sitting at the corner of the park. So that's about a 600 to 700 foot shot. So even a basic blaster like this can still do tons of damage at that long range. The trouble is accuracy. The beam gets really tight when you get really far out there. There's a helicopter that's pulling into the airfield that I was telling you about earlier. But it's just a really excellent place for folks who like to use their range to lay out. But there's also a lot of ways that, that the sniper can get himself into a lot of trouble, mainly because of the cover that is around it. There's a couple different ways you can approach a lot of these overlooks without getting picked off by those guys with the long-range blasters. Let's go check it out. This is a path that goes along the ridge that was over this big hill that I was just showing you that snipers love to fire from. But through here is this little track that kind of follows along this ridge over here. Players that can manage to get to this pretty much have their cover already taken care of for them if they're trying to get to the snipers that are utilizing this ridge for cover. And that cover works against them when folks manage to get up here. Getting up here is the trick. There's not a whole lot of quick routes to get here. It's kind of a long haul to get all the way up here. But there's natural cover because there's this big ravine that follows alongside this little path up here. You see there's an excellent overview of the park from here, just a fantastic view. So this is kind of one of the features of the park that can work for and against you if you're not paying attention. This path is obviously overgrown, but you get the gist of it. Right now we're at the bottom of that basin where I was showing you where that track follows around. And as you can see, there's not a whole lot to hide behind on this big old hill. At the corner over here, this structure here actually used to be a baseball diamond. You can still see the batting cage up there and a little bit of the fence here on the side. None of the bases are here anymore, at least none that I've found. But it kind of has provided quite a bit of cover because of the trees and vines and stuff that have grown through it. This is kind of a really easy place to stage an attack from, one of the places where snipers love to hang out, which is right up at the top of that hill there. So this is where you start getting more into ranged combat that is a little more conducive just to medium range combat instead of those guys who like to take their long shots and run away and hide and all that stuff. So this is kind of a good launch point for that because of the cover that it provides. Kind of in the middle portion of the park right now, and it's real easy for newer players and older players alike to get turned around in this area because there's a lack of definitive land features and landmarks and things like that to help you keep track of where you are in the park. A lot of firefights happen here also because it's so easy to take cover in here on just a flat plane. One minute you can be walking forward and all of your corners will be clear, the next someone will be popping up behind a bush that you thought that was clear, and suddenly there's a bunch of guys attacking you from there. It's really easy to get turned around in here because of that, because especially if you're in search mode, unless you're just beelining it, which you can't really do in a place like this because there's trees and shrubs and tall grass and stuff like that that require you to kind of take a indirect route to wherever you're trying to go. Sometimes we set objectives on either side, like a flag or something like that that you need to take care of. So those kind of things can get you turned around in here. Here's a great example where terrain can work against you. You have this really thick cover that you have to try and navigate through, and sometimes some of it's just generally impassable. So what ends up being a good idea on a topographical map to try and evade detection by utilizing all these hills and trenches and things like that ends up working against you, because you end up getting stuck in the thicket, and then everyone can hear you trying to struggle your way out, and you end up getting fragged. Although humans aren't always around here to blaze trails, deer are, and a lot of these small paths that I'm trying to make my way through in are actually just that. They're deer paths that have been weaved through these thick portions of the forest. It's kind of handy having those already laid out for you, but the problem is, because they were for, you know, deer, height can be a bit of an issue, and so trying to get through these can be a bit of a hassle. But if you know where they're going, and you've spent enough time to figure out kind of the little passageways through here, then it can really kind of help you get around, like to this guy. This is probably my favorite place in the park, even though I hardly ever use it because you pretty much come here to die. This is the tennis court and basketball court, multi-purpose court thing that was here on the base. We got a basketball hoop there that LeBron's not going to be hitting any threes off for a while. I mean, this place is just overtaken. There's entire trees growing up through what used to be a court. You can still see the posts where you used to be able to mount nets and things like that. Just very post-apocalyptic in here. It's just a really neat place. The trouble with it is that there's not a whole lot of places you can go once you get in here. There's the entrance over there by that first hoop. Then there's another entrance that's over here somewhere, but it's really grown in and kind of tough to use. I think I can see it a little bit. The neat thing about this place is just how much Mother Nature has taken over. I mean, there's trees that are growing around poles and stuff on this thing. Just to give you an example of how long this stuff has been here. I mean, this thing's growing around it. We've got trees that are growing through chain link fences even. And growing around them. It's just nuts. So I like this place for aesthetics. It's also a great place for objectives, just because it's so tough to get in and out of here unscathed. But yeah, I would definitely not choose to come here to hide if there wasn't some kind of objective or some kind of upside to doing so. In the end, this park really has it all. From its varying terrain to different types of cover that you've got that support pretty much any type of combat, be it ranged, kind of long-range sniper combat or close-range stuff. This park really kind of caters to everything, and that's what's so great about it. The only problem is that it's a little bit taxing. Unlike the parks that we usually play in that have a paved concrete pathway and nice mowed lawns, this is Mother Nature taking over what used to be civilization. So it can be a little brutal out there for those that, you know, are in shape, but round is their shape. So we try and make sure that the folks who come here are A, into this sort of outdoorsy kind of thing, and B, fit to be able to do what we do here. And a lot of it gets pretty fast-paced because it is only 700 feet by 700 feet. So there's not a ton of space to work around with. So when you do come into contact with an enemy in here, then you're moving pretty quickly. And you've also gotta watch your head in here too. There's a lot of low branches and things that can clothesline you if you're not careful. But it's just a really great place to play, and I'm glad I could share it with you guys. See you later.